What's up, YouTube? This is Boxingwave, fresh back from vacation. Spent some time down in Houston this week. Good relaxation time. And I'm back. I came back today and I was able to watch the majority of the fights. I didn't go live, though. I had a long day. It was too long for me to go live. But let's talk about the fight, man. Let's get straight into it. Shakur Stevenson wins decision, a clear decision to me, against Artem. And look, Shakur tried to get a stoppage here. He did walk Artem down, for the majority of the fight. I think Artem you probably could have gave him the first 2 rounds. Anything outside of that, I think really basically went to Shakur. But Shakur really connected to the body and hurt Artem, and I thought it maybe around the 6th, 7th round that a stoppage was coming, and we never got that. My observation of the fight was basically, look, Shakur is just not a puncher. It is what it is. That is the one thing he lacks. Offensively, he's good, but he's still a defensive fighter. And comparing Frank Martin's performance against Harutunian, yes, Frank was definitely down on points and definitely losing the fight in the first half of the fight. And he did rally back and pulled off a close decision win in a fight that I thought it was 6 rounds to 6 rounds apiece. And he won based off the knockdown and I think it was the last round or so. The difference between Frank and Shakur, we know that Shakur is way more talented. All right, it's not even a question. But the difference between Frank is Frank had the killer instinct that Shakur is just not going to have because he's a defensive fighter first. No matter how much dog he shows in certain fights, he's just not a guy that's going to just rally and take the hits in order to give them. Sometimes when you're a guy like a Frank Martin or a Tank Davis, right? Tank, he fought Frank Martin recently. Tank took a lot of hits to get to that stoppage. And even though Shakur was at times on the inside and he was digging to the body, he was landing some clean, short left hands, he just doesn't have the power. And offensively, he's not going to push to a point where he's going to be open for a good shot, a good return shot. He's too defensive minded, and I think that even though he had the momentum and it looked like he was going to get a stoppage at some point or at least force Artem to take a knee, he just couldn't push enough to do it. He has to let his hands go up more. I know I was listening to him in his post-fight interview and he was saying something like, he wished, Artem was fighting in survival mode, and at some points he was, but that was only when he was hurt. Artem still let his hands go throughout the fight, and Shakur just could not do enough to finish the job because he's just not that big of a puncher. All right, he's big of a puncher to hurt guys. I think he's bigger than enough of a puncher to still have respect, force respect from his opponents. Just like Floyd, Floyd is a perfect example because he does fight like an older money Mayweather, Floyd Mayweather, older one where he's still going to he's still going to outbox you. He's still going to let his hands go enough and hit you enough to where he neutralizes you. He makes you concerned. No fighter wants to get hit, and that's what Floyd, like the way I look at Floyd, when I heard Oscar and when I heard Shane and other fighters that he fought that says Floyd hits hard. Yeah, maybe not knockout power type hard, but he hits hard enough to make his opponents fearful of getting hit by him. And that's the way I see Shakur. But as far as stopping fighters, he's never going to be that. He's just not that guy. Devin Haney is not that guy. Tank is that guy. But Tank is willing to take damage like he did against Frank Martin, like he did against Hector Garcia. Certain opponents he's willing to take the hits from. He was a lot more cautious with Rolly Romero and Ryan Garcia in their fight. But when he fought guys like a Frank Martin, he wanted to stop him and he had to take some hits in order to get that job done. You know, he had to wear these guys down and keep a heavier pressure. Plus, he's a bigger puncher. These guys don't want to get hit by him neither. So they had to be wary and be smart while creating their offense and having some control. The pressure of Tank was too much, and even though Shakur had that same type of pressure at some points in this fight, especially in I want to say between the third and 7 rounds, those was probably his better rounds in this fight. It just wasn't enough to secure the stoppage win. You know, Artem is already a tough dude, and Frank really opened up because he had to. He had to push hard and try to get a stoppage. Why? Because he was actually losing to, you know, I don't remember what the judges scorecards were, but to a lot of viewers, Frank was losing that fight, and he had to do what he had to do to win, which led to him getting a knockdown late in that fight. Shakur is not that guy, you know, and I don't think Shakur will ever be that unless he's like really in danger of losing a fight, you know, which this wasn't the case. As much as tough as Artem was, and he did hang around, Shakur was never really in any danger in this fight. You know, it's like with Ashaki Foster, who I'm going to do a separate video on. Ashaki Foster won the last couple of his fights against Rocky Hernandez and against Abraham Nova. His approach was different in those fights because he had to do something late in order to secure the win, because those were really, really close fights. He didn't get it tonight against Cashapp, but he turned it up a different notch. And that's because the fight wasn't in his hands leading up to the championship rounds, where Shakur, yeah, he's trying to get the stoppage, but there's no urgency because he's still winning at the end of the day. Look, styles make fights in boxing. It's always been that way. And there's a reason why a lot of fighters just don't want to fight him. Because even if he might not be the most dangerous fighter as far as punching power, he's very difficult to beat because of his defense. He doesn't get hit a lot, and he's extremely accurate. This guy is always getting like 40-45% as far as accuracy with those power shots. That's, no one really wants to deal with that, you know, especially because he's very hard to hit. So with that being said, it's not a great performance because a lot of people are going to look at it as being boring. They were showing, you know, the broadcast was showing people walking out of the arena around the 11th round, and they're in Newark. You know, I even heard a little bit of booing in the championship rounds in Shakur Stevenson fight in Newark, New Jersey, which is crazy. Again, he's just not a puncher. And this is why people don't really believe in him. I believe in him because I think he is going to win the fight. But as far as excitement, he's not going to really bring that. I enjoy watching his fights, but there is something missing. And that is him taking it to another level, like changing the gears and going into a different bag. And we haven't really seen him have to do that. So it's better than what we saw, obviously, against his last opponent. But this was more like what we've seen from him in the past, when he beat guys for 12 rounds, whether he knocked them down or not. We seen this before, you know. So he tried. He's just not a puncher. He's just not. It is what it is. But I still think he has a great chance of beating Tank Davis. I still think he beats Lomachenko. I think his style is awful for Lomachenko. I know he's out of his contract now with Top Rank, so I don't know what he's going to do. But he has to be smart because this is 135. Top Rank does have great fighters there. And I think if he's going to go to the PBC, he should not be going to the PBC unless he is sure that he's getting a Tank Davis fight. If he's not going to get a Tank Davis fight, which I don't think he will, then there's no point of going to the PBC. At least with Top Rank, you could fight Barenchik. You could fight. You could fight Barenchik. You could fight Lomachenko possibly, and you can also, dip into the DAZN Golden Boy Matchroom thing and maybe work out a fight with cross promoters over there. But as far as the PBC, there's no point of going into PBC unless you're fighting Tank Davis. If he gets with Eddie, I'm sure Eddie can work out certain fights, but Top Rank ain't going to prioritize Shakur because he's going to be a former fighter of theirs, and they're not going to be looking to do any favors by putting their fighters in the ring with him just so he can go back to Matchroom or wherever he decides to go. So I don't know. Maybe Turkey Al-Sheikh can step in and give something with him where he can make a lot of money. Maybe it might not be the opponent we want to see, but he has options. Obviously, there's William Cepeda who beat Cabrera tonight easily. There's options out there, but I don't know where he's gonna go. I say, go with the money. Obviously, that's going to always be the priority, but go where the fighters are at, where they can possibly push you to make people believe that you are a top tier fighter, for the ones that still don't believe it. I think most people do believe that he has the talent, but they think he's boring. And I can't argue. I can't defend it. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's my view on it. Shakur did what he had to do. I gave Artem the first 2 rounds. But outside of that, Shakur dominated, went to the body well. Artem, he tried to do the best he could. He did a lot of good body work, but it just wasn't enough. Shakur is solid at this point, and Artem just didn't have the arsenal to just keep up with him. Shakur is just too good. All right, so anyway, that's my thoughts on the fight. Let me know what you guys think. Please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.